DealQuest viewers and listeners, I'm so excited to have Kamran Saleem coming up on an upcoming episode of DealQuest. He is created a really innovative business in the auto sales and services business in the UK, and has done some deals to get him there. Some lessons learned, good and bad. Cam, tell the folks what they can expect to hear about on your episode of DealQuest.
Hi everyone, look forward to presenting to you and giving you all my tips and advice and all my experiences I've encountered through my business life so far. I hope it's a good listen for you all.
Yeah, great. And I mean, we're talking about raising money, franchise deals in and out, the way you're planning on expanding and exiting. I mean, I in our pre-interview, I know there's going to be so much that's rich there. You've had a bit of a journey, yeah?
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. I've been through the real roller coaster of business, and I'm still here, thriving after COVID-19, so hopefully be able to provide some pearls of wisdom for everyone.
Well, folks, you're going to really love Cam's story, so definitely tune in for his episode of DealQuest.
Do you want your business to grow faster? Are you open to new and out-of-the-box ways to drive revenues and increase value? How do you imagine the most successful entrepreneurs and business leaders double, triple, or expand their businesses tenfold or more? The answer is Deals. This is a weekly podcast featuring conversations with business owners, executives, and leaders as we reveal behind-the-scenes details that give you, our listeners, the confidence to pursue your own deal-driven growth. On the show, we discuss a huge variety of deals, everything from large, complex mergers and acquisitions to smaller deals that you can do even without significant capital. My name is Corey Kupfer, and I've been supporting deal-driven growth for businesses for 35 years as a successful entrepreneur, professional negotiator, and attorney. My goal is to help you strategize, plan for, find, and complete deals that will help your company grow faster. Welcome to the DealQuest podcast. Let's get started.
DealQuest listeners and viewers, I'm so excited to have Kamran Saleem as my guest on DealQuest this week. He is a family man, a car-mad businessman, all things car sales, repairs, and services, property. He's a property investor and a project manager, and thinking outside the box for long-term commercial deal gains. Cam, thank you for being on the DealQuest podcast. Welcome.
Hi, Corey. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, so Cam, before we get into all the cool stuff you're doing now and talk about the kind of deals you've gone through, I want to take you back to when you were a little kid growing up, maybe 8, 10, 12 years old. What did you want to be? Because I don't know, was it about cars back then as well, or was it something totally different?
It's always been about cars with myself. So I've always had a love for them, always have big enthusiasm for them. So yeah, that was always kind of in the center of my life. But I was very fortunate. I actually grew up, my parents are accountants. So I grew up in a very kind of entrepreneurialism society. So everyone around us had businesses, setting up businesses, running restaurants, shops, it was all about commerce and trade. So that was my background. So as I grew up, I just knew that I was going to be in business for myself. It was kind of a default. It wasn't really a question of if, it was just a question of when.
Love it.
So straight out of university, I was straight into the deep end.
And did you think it was going to be in cars, or were there other things when you were a kid that you were interested in?
No, it was actually because my father, my mom, both my parents are accountants by trade. Yeah, they still are. They're still practicing. I actually followed in the family footsteps. So I did business management and finance at university, and all my jobs were related to finance and central finance office roles up to that point. And then when I actually left university, I joined the family firm. But all the clients, all my contacts, everyone that I knew, they always used to come to me for their cars. So asking me, what car should I buy? I'm looking at getting 5 vans for work, how do I buy them? So I ended up basically becoming a bit of a deal packager. And I was earning more commission from the banks and from the cars than I was earning with my father. So he basically effectively fired me and said, "It's not doing anything for us, so just do it yourself, just go on your own." So there I was sitting in his office. I had my own office within the building, and basically became my own little business within that.
That's amazing. And how old were you when when you made that shift?
Out of uni, so I was about 23.
Wow.
At that point. Yeah, so it was quite. So I started at relatively young age compared to most.
So before we talk about exactly what this business is and what it's grown to, also thinking back, what was your first deal of any type? It could have been something when you were a kid, old, or whatever, just whatever comes to mind, any kind of deal.
It was actually when I was 16. It was round about. I'm going to give away my age here, but I'm just about to turn 40 this year, so I'll just tell you straight off the cuff. But it was when I was 16, and the internet was starting to take a real, it was starting to really kick off, and everyone was getting online, getting their websites. No one really knew what they were or why they needed them, but there just seemed to be a buzzword at the time during obviously the dot-com boom. And I actually got myself a package. I bought myself a laptop and a big fat digital camera, which was about this big, that could take about 6 pictures on the hard drive that I had and on the disk. And I started going around taking pictures of people's restaurants and writing up their menus and putting all their stuff online. So I started setting them there. They were very awful HTML, like bright blue, bright green websites, the old types, and just a load of text. They were like that, and I was charging £250, £300 per website, and I was getting all these restaurants online. So it was great, and I had in the first year I had about 50 clients. So it picked up quite well, and I became quite self-sustaining and working on my own cash flow from quite a young age.
Love it, love it. So so tell folks. So there might be a giveaway between the accent and the mentioning currency in pounds about where you're located. But tell people where you are and what your current business is. What are you doing now?
Yeah, I live in the Midlands in the United Kingdom, so in the middle of England, and I'm in the automotive trade. So my main day-to-day business is Motorsave UK, which it has now become through a load of rebranding. And we are a very large independent car service and repair centre, and we also have quite a large car sales department as well.
Right. So repairs, sales, that kind of stuff. So obviously, there's a lot that you do to grow the business organically. Promotions and marketing and sales and all that kind of stuff. But how did deals play into your business growth? What kind of what's your experience in deals, whether it was in growing this business or anything you had before?
Yeah, it's because obviously I mentioned I started off in a room in my father's office, so had no capital, had no I was just kind of earning month to month, just making the commissions, making the kind of margins on the cars, and really to take ourselves forward, I wanted to launch. I wanted to get away from my father's office and that little room where there was just two of us, and I wanted a big substantial place. So I had to raise funds, and the funds weren't available through family or friends or anything. So I had to put the idea together. I had to get everything kind of documented, and I had to take it to the banks. I had to take it to private finance houses, and to acquire this place, I had to build it. So we bought an empty unit basically, and the cost of fitting was circa £350,000. I had to raise that, and I raised all of it 100% through basically private funding, bank funding, and I took on a lot of debt to get started, but I had to put the deal together so it made sense. And to be honest, the motor trade in the UK, I'm not sure how it is in the US, but in the UK, it's very, very tough in the motor trade because the banks take quite a dim view. There's quite a lot of failures within the industry. So to persuade, a bank or, a finance lender that, I'm different, I know what I'm doing, my idea is different, I've got a different, spin on things, it was quite tough. But going through all the no's, all the normal high street banks, and then finally getting a yes from someone who believed in us was fantastic, and that launched us. We opened up. I built the place in about 4 months, and we got going in 2015 at this place.
Wow. So I was going to raise that even before you said it. Because you're young, you don't have a personal track history, right? You would do some stuff in the industry, but in terms of building the kind of business you were, doing there, most people would think you'd be unfundable, right? At that point, certainly not in terms of bank, lending. So talk to us a little bit more about, it sounds like you had a bunch of no's, but you found somebody. what kind of lender was this? Was is this a alternative lender? Was it a commercial bank? Again, and also the structure's a little different in the UK. What kind of lender was this, and how did get into it a little more about how did you actually convince them to? You said they believed in you. Well, it's not that easy, right? How'd you get them to believe in you?
It's because we bank with a large commercial bank here, like our day-to-day banking. We still do today, and we just didn't fit their criteria. We had no security, we had no serviceability. It was all an idea on a bit of paper. So they were kind of like, look, it's not one for us. That was a favorite phrase I kept hearing. And through personal networking, I met a bunch of brokers, and those brokers, developed a relationship with them. And because they believed in me and they knew that I kind of knew what I was doing and my idea was quite good, it was through their personal recommendations that I managed to get into it. It is a commercial enterprise, but it is an alternative lender.
Yeah.
And I managed to get, I got a seat at the table to actually speak to them. And what phrase stuck in my mind, I'd heard it before, but I never heard anyone use it. The main credit, the decision maker of the organization, the main underwriter, he said, I like to see the whites of someone's eyes. And I like to get behind, I like to get behind the scenes. I like to see what's going on, what the rationale is. He actually came to site before it was even built. He came to see it as an empty shell. And he had a look at the area and then what I was suggesting we were going to do, because basically we're a main dealer alternative. So where you got all the manufacturer dealerships, we fit right below them. So we were slightly cheaper. We offer all makes and models, but we offer all the frills. So you get courtesy vehicles, you get free collection and delivery. We've got a nice waiting room on site, and we've got service consultants who work with the clients direct. So it's very much like a main dealer setup, but it's independent prices. And because we're independent, we work with all makes and models. So it's quite a broad service that we offer, and it's one that's quite frankly is quite hard to manage. Yeah. So their thought process was, this guy's going to go out of control. It's just going to go like this, and it's just going to spiral, and it's going to collapse. And they were right, because the business has been tough. It has been very difficult to keep under control. And my accountant, she calls me a professional juggler, and I think I've had to become that over time, because that pot of funding that I got initially, I've actually refinanced that about 3 times. So I've restructured it. I've released additional funding. I've actually paid it all down, and I've put it into a house. I've managed to get it to a point where I've got a house lender to reduce the APR on it, like the interest rate, and bring that right down. So I managed to restructure it a number of times. So my repayments on it have been from there were like £24,000 a month, and I've got it down to £6,000 a month.
Wow.
And that little bit of green, in the monthly P&L, it's taken forward. It's given me more money to advertise, more money to market the business, which in turn is growing the revenue. And the cycle continues. So,
well, 18,000 a month is a big difference. I mean, So I was going to say, I assume that first alternative lender was at a higher interest rate than commercially bankable rates, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and were there, a lot of times with those, with any kind of loan, there's prepayment penalties. So did you go to, how long was that initial loan? Did you go to term? Did you take it out? Did you have to pay a prepayment penalty? How did it was a 5-year deal. So 5-year, full repayment deal. And the way that it's structured, I'm not sure what it's like in the US, but if you repay within 1 year, the penalty is like 4%, then 3% at 2 years, 2% at 3 years. So basically, we paid a little bit. Because it was in year 3 when we managed to get the turnover up to a sustainable level. That was able to get the refinance on the property, and they were willing to do it on the business, because the business had obviously shown a few years track record at that point. So no, it's worked well, and we're constantly looking at it, because I think from what you said, because day to day we're trading and I'm running the business, but on my mind constantly is I'm looking at the overall package. What have we got here? How could I get this? Because at the moment, right now, we're looking at how can I open up more branches. Yeah.
What deal can I structure? Because now I've got a proven pilot in this site. I want 5 sites. I want to copy and paste this site, and I want to get 5 sites and build it into a 5 times business, and then look to sell it or exit, or the options are just endless.
Sure. So so there's some potential deals coming up. Before we go there, Let me ask you just so people understand the core business. So obviously, you do the repair and servicing, you do sales. Are the sales on new cars, used cars, both?
Yeah, they're both used cars primarily because we hold them in stock. But then because we've done things a little bit different to other car companies because we are a service center. What that brings us a lot of data, brings us a lot of customers in house. So we develop that relationship with them over time. And then when it comes to them selling their car or buying a new car, they trust us. So the deals that we can get for them on their brand new vans or brand new luxury cars, whatever car really, they'll just come to us and say, I'm after this, I'm after XYZ, BMW, Mercedes and Audi, and we'll go and broker that deal for them.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I will tell you, at least in the US, and maybe it's true in other places in the UK, most people would not think of the people who service their cars as a trusted partner. In fact, they're just happy if they're not getting ripped off, and getting at least a fair price for the repairs. So, is that the case in the UK? And if so, what have you done to really create a different relationship with your customers than most service places do?
It's exactly the same here. So it's always the greasy Joe working under the bonnet, and you say, "Oh, I've got this noise coming from the car," and you get that's going to cost you, however many thousand. And it's the same here. We're tarred with the same brush. So to get the brand was very important. So we push the brand forward. So it's like trusted, it's professional, and the way that we kind of approach our customers, because we're not the cheapest. We don't profess to be the cheapest, but we do a good job. We can look after Bentleys, we can look after Minis, we can look after all sorts of cars. And it's the way that our social media is the centerpiece of all of our marketing. And it's getting that message across, and it's that communication with the customers and with the potential customers that we are different. You can trust us because we have, in the UK, we have what's called an MOT, which is an annual government inspection on all vehicles. And a car has to have that every 12 months once it reaches 3 years old. And that in the UK, that's charged at £50 normally. It's £52 is the recommended government price. Usually, garages are doing it for £40, £35, £30. Nothing substantial. So we actually went in at £15, and that's our loss leader. So we're the only place in the UK that does that because people think we're crazy. They think we're losing money on it. But in reality, we persuade people because we get them in. We do their MOT for £15, and if it fails, it's free, which reduces all the obstacles in that kind of sales pitch. And then when they've been in to see us, because they've dealt with our guys, they've seen our place, they've seen how professional we are, we convert them into service customers. We convert them into gold members because we have a gold membership base, and they pay monthly for their car servicing for next year. And then they see our marketing, they're on that email database, and they see our cars for sale, they get basically upsold and all types of things. And it just develops that relationship over time. So
it's fascinating to me because in many, there are other businesses, online businesses, training companies, whatever, where, having a low cost entry point and putting people into what basically becomes a marketing funnel, right? And being able to upsell and cross-sell, whatever, is very standard. But certainly, at least in my experience in the US, I'm sure it's probably true in the UK, is there's probably almost nobody else who's really doing that well, right? Like, certainly not at the, because it's not the way this industry really operates, right? To look at the lifetime value of a customer, to put them into a nurturing, nurturing funnel, to get them into your database. Those are conversations that are very common in certain industries, but in my experience, really not so much in automobile sales and repairs.
Yeah, 100%. You said the words, and I say those words all the time. Lifetime value of customer. Where a lot of garages, because unfortunately it is a hard trade, and it is expensive to operate. There's expensive cost of sales. There's expensive overheads. So people are under pressure. So the garages that are just trying to basically milk every customer for their transaction value today, I do know where they're coming from, and I feel where they're coming from, but it's too much too early in their customer's relationship, and they just destroy it on the spot. So they might get that money today, they're not going to get it tomorrow. Then have to find a whole new load of customers. So they're constantly chasing their tail. Whereas on our kind of our business model, we're looking for customers and we're looking to basically build them into gold members. Then we want to, sell them a car, want to buy their car off them. And then we're just constantly developing our kind of customer journey. And it's that you want to, we've got 30,000 customers on our database on our email right now. It's something like 32,000 at the moment. And I want each one of them to come for their MOT next year at least. And if they're coming back for their MOT, we're staying, all the marketing.
Top of mind, a regular touch point, all of that stuff. Yeah.
And the more times you see a car, because over the course of 1 year, a car can deteriorate in so many different spaces. So the more times that we see that car, the more opportunities we'll get. So we don't necessarily need to empty their wallet on the first visit. It's going to come with time because that car is going to fall apart, basically. Right. It's going to need tyres, it's going to need brakes. So it's kind of, we've developed our cash flow so we can sustain it over long term. And then what's been the challenge, which I've never seen in any other business, is the revenue just goes like this when we first started. And then the next year, when you're plotting the graph against last year, it doesn't even correlate. There's no patterns. Sometimes we're busy at Christmas, other times we're quiet at Christmas. Sometimes we're busy in the summer and vice versa. So I've been struggling and I've managed to do it now, but the cash flow to remain constant. And I've figured out, what times of the year people require what. So our marketing gets pushed out early and we pull them through. So it's been a really interesting learning experience for me, like operating the business.
Well, and then this gold membership you mentioned, where it's basically, that's a subscription model, right? It's a regular annual fee, which is the holy grail, right? Everybody, that's, I've talked about this in the past on the show. We had Joel Block on for his second time he was on. He does trend reports, and subscription was the one for many years now has been the move that everybody tries to get. And I think about how many subscriptions I have to stuff I don't even probably remember I have subscriptions to. I just said to my wife the other day, I said something like, do we watch anything on Hulu? I think we have a subscription on Hulu. Nothing against Hulu, but I was just sort of like, I don't think we're using that. Should we? Yeah. And it's, but that's the thing. It's, in their case, it's whatever, $14 a month. Like it's at a pace where you don't think about it. I had clients in the gym. I've talked about this in the health club industry when they switched from the annual renewals to the monthly subscriptions, and it seemed like much fairer to the customer because they can cancel on 30 days notice anytime. Yeah. But the truth is they just stay on that thing for much longer than when they had an annual, renewal. So, so it's brilliant. And also smooths out your cash flow, right? Really smart, really smart.
And it was tricky to figure out because when I took advice on it, which is, I think again, is a crucial thing, you have to ask around, you have to find out from market experts. When I was looking to develop it, it was kind of, you'll become, if you subscribe, say if you've had your car service this year, you're going to need your car service next year. So it's that gap. We want your money basically for the next service. But it was the main objective is to make sure you come back next year. So it was that retention. Also, we give you a very flash looking, I wish I had one in hand, but a gold membership card. And on that, you get a load of free services.
Yep.
So you can have free aircon regas, you can have free four-wheel alignment, you can have free bulb replacements, fluid top-ups, blah, blah, blah. And we're like the gym. We've got over 1,200 members now, and I think less than 100 even come in for any of that stuff.
Well, that's right. That's right. And that's the classic. That's right. That's the classic thing. If everybody who had a gym membership, if half the people, a quarter of the people who had a gym membership actually showed up, they wouldn't be able to operate. They'd be back.
Exactly that. That's how my experience has been as well. So now, in reality, if we actually sold, like for this centre here, if I sold 7,500, like we've got about 1,200 at the moment. Yep. If I sold 7,500 memberships, we'd be at capacity in terms of our cash flow requirements.
Yeah.
That would be us done. So that's a business in itself. So that is something I'm looking at. Like if we open up another site, could I just sell 10,000 memberships in that local area and that's it, we're done. And then move on to the next and then the next. But it's a difficult sell. That's the thing, because people aren't used to it. It's what you said. People are
not especially in your industry.
But it's a little bit unique in this industry. Yep. So trying to get, and again, it's the way the brand's been built, multiple locations, etc., etc. It's going to help people have that reassurance that you're still going to be there next year, that there's going to be a branch near to them. they can go to. So,
and the interesting thing that's part of this, at least my theory, is listen. I know that I pay for those kind of things all the time, right? I'm even very aware that I may not, in the States here, one of the AMC movie theaters, right, has this, I forget what they call it, but it's this, whatever membership thing, right? And they advertise it that you can see 3 movies a week. Well, who's going to see, they know nobody's going to see 3 movies a week. I mean, I'm not going to see 3 movies a month probably. But when you look at the math on it, if you see 2 movies a month, like at 1 movie a month, you're losing a few bucks. At 2 movies a month, it makes sense. But even at 1 movie a month, you get these perks, right? I get to skip the line at the concession stand. I get to, right? I mean, I have a special line, and for, the thing about these kind of things, I mean, that's a tiny example. But, a bigger example is it's, the reason why I fly one airline all the time, because I want to get status, right? So I get my upgrades and I get to board the plane first and I get to, whatever. And I'll even take a less convenient flight sometimes to be on that airline to get my points and my mileage and my dollars or whatever. But you also then getting a better clientele generally, I think, because the people who are willing to do that, right, usually are in a position to be able to do that, and they're the ones who are making the decision to arbitrage money in exchange for time and other benefits. So they have the money to be it's an arbitrage, right? To me, whatever it's I'll pay extra for a flight to because I know I'm going to get the perks. I'm going to sit in the front of the plane. I'll pay extra for this subscription because I don't want to wait on the line for popcorn, right? It's like, it's because my time's valuable, so.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And that's, we have similar things here. I've got an Odeon pass for, annual membership, and I can go and see as many films as I want. I think literally 1 a month I'll go to see, if that. And I wouldn't have gone anyway.
Right, exactly.
Let's take a break from the show for a minute so I can invite you to a new way to determine your deal readiness. I created a fast and easy assessment that will determine exactly how deal ready you are. Once you complete the assessment, I use your responses to identify the obstacles that are holding you back from being a deal-driven growth genius. It's as easy as heading to CoreyKupfer.com/assessment. That's CoreyKupfer.com/assessment and filling out a few multiple choice questions. I'll be checking in after the episode to see what your results are. Now back to the show.
So you mentioned a couple of times that, you're looking to expand other locations, maybe get 5 instead of 1. What's so first of all, is the vision that those are all going to be company owned, or do you have any partners? Are you going to bring in any partners? What's the vision for the expansion?
That's the big question at the moment, because the vision is, because I did skip a little bit, when we were talking about the business when I was starting up. It was actually when I actually opened the service center, I did it from my business, but I did it as a franchise opportunity.
Okay.
Because I didn't know that, I know the car finance and car purchase and all that, religiously, but the service angle, I did go in as a franchisee initially to a new franchise that was opened up.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that franchise, within the space of about 9 months, it collapsed. All
right, so that's right. Let's talk about that. Now that you mentioned, I remember we discussed this a little bit in our prior conversations. So listen, so we've had, I've had a couple of people who on franchises. My entrepreneurs organization, past presidents forum, Judy Briggs owns a couple of franchises. She was on an early episode. But talk to us a little bit about, that decision. I mean, at a high level, I think people understand the benefits of a franchise is that supposedly you're getting into an established system. They're going to give you, they're going to train you. They're going to give you your processes and procedures. They're going to do some marketing for you. These are all the things that are promised, right? In exchange, obviously, they're going to take a piece of the action. So that's the promise, and obviously it works for some, but it didn't work for you. So talk to me about your mindset and the reasons why. I mean, maybe I summarized some of them that you went into it, and then what went wrong.
Yeah, it's exactly as you said. That was my thought process. The process was, I know cars, I know the area, and this franchise opportunity came along where I could open up a service center, which would sit very nicely with my car finance brokerage and car finance business.
Yes.
So that was the thought process, and we had a lot of customers we could bring in to the franchise, like to our new centre. So, and I did it because I didn't know the car servicing trade. I didn't know, I didn't know anything more than anyone else. So I know that you need brake pads and discs, and I know that you need hand belt service here and there, but that's about it. And so I bought into the franchise. We opened up this place, and that franchise had a different brand, and it was, they had one pilot site which has gone really well, and the franchisees were lining up across the UK. So they'd sold, I think it's about 15 by the time that I joined, but I was the first one over the line as opened because I got my funding through my own business and through my own connection. So I got my funding really fast. I got the site built really fast. I got it all opened up. Then when it came to so we're all open. We've done our big opening with the local Lord Mayor, and we had everyone down here, all the trade people. Massive bash. It went really well. But then it was kind of like, where are the cars? Where are the customers? We had tumbleweed in the workshop. We had this massive new workshop, brand spanking new facilities. I've just paid for it all. I've just borrowed £350,000 and paid for it all. I've got installments of £24,000 a month that are kicking off in 30 days. I need some cars. And where they fell over was the processes, like the training. Like they trained me how to look at every car. Like I had to look at all the brands and everything, and like all the basic training on it all. But that was only part of the picture, because obviously they needed to train me as a business owner. How am I going to do the marketing? How am I going to do the finance? How am I going to manage the invoices? Because these places make so much paperwork. It's unbelievable, because the amount of invoices that you get 5 invoices for one job, like inbound purchases. So you have 1 invoice outbound. So it's like really heavy on the purchases. So there's a lot of paperwork generated. How do you manage it all? Nothing. The manual, when you started going through it, it was empty, had no content. So we were forced to be in a position where it's either survival or these guys are going to take us under, because they were going so slowly. I wanted to do some marketing, so I was like, look, I need the cars on the ramp. I need them in the business. I want to push this marketing out. I had to go through an approval process. I had to submit my ideas. They then edited the hell out of them, sent them back 3 weeks later. Then I'd get it out, and it's like, hang on, we've got a month now, and that's just cost me £20,000 in installments. And I've got £4,000, I was accruing it day by day, and that's just cost me £20,000. You taking 3.5 weeks to come back to me. So I wasn't very happy, and it emerged. The other franchisees weren't really happy either. The the guys that were starting to open up, and basically at the end of it, when it all kind of, because we had to kind of sit down at a table and say, oh, look, this isn't working out. We need to go our own way. We need to continue with this business, but we don't want to do it under your umbrella. We need to terminate the franchise agreement. And they pushed back. Of course, they pushed back because they're their 10-year, really super clad legally secure franchise agreement, and we were tied into it. So they said, even if you do trade, you owe us our 8% royalty. You owe us a franchise fee. You owe us XYZ. So it's kind of like, well, we actually went along the lines of, you've missold this to us. You said ABC, and it's not here. It's just not prevalent. You haven't provided that to us. So you've breached your own agreement. Yep. So it went along those lines. And then at the end of it, it was all amicable. We all walked away. Then I rebranded. But what I did get, I got a lot of training straight away through those guys, and learn the trade, so to speak. But everything else I plugged in for my own knowledge. So the marketing, the branding, everything else, and the way I wanted to take the business, I was released. So I basically, all this stuff that I've just been discussing today, that was all kind of off my own back once I got that release.
Wow.
But to do that, I had to actually buy out their pilot site. So I bought out their pilot site, again, raised additional funding through my favourite lender, and bought the pilot site in, and I strategically closed that down over a space of about a year and a half. I ran their lease down, and I swallowed up all their trade. So I bought it into my own site, and
that's fascinating. So not only, did the other franchisees, when you said we, was it you, or was it all the franchisees?
It was me on my own, but the other franchisees, because they were at different states. So one had some had put a deposit down. They were looking for premises. Other people had opened. So there's another 2 garages that had actually opened in like London area of England, and one of them just shut down. He ran out of money and shut down. and that was my fear. So he actually closed up the doors and just gave up. He threw the towel in. And the other guy, he actually continued on his own. He jumped on my back and followed my process. But because he was so far away, the brand didn't affect him. Like the collapse and the closure of the franchise brand, continued with that brand on his own. And I just rebranded and I carried on my own route.
So you cut a deal to get out of the franchise agreement. They released all claims. You had no obligations to them. Part of that was to buy out their pilot site.
Yeah, I had to take that out.
And then, which is brilliant. I mean, I guess on that part, they're trying to salvage what they can, and on your part, it made some sense. Sounds like geographically, whatever, was close enough where you felt you could, so you wrote out that lease, and basically that's how you seeded. At least I'm sure you did your own marketing and whatever for other, but that's partially how you seeded some of your clients by shifting them from the pilot site to your existing facility. Exactly
that, because the pilot site in itself, it wasn't the standard that we built here, and the way that we wanted to brand it, and the quality. It's that exactly what you said about going to a car repairer and Greasy Joe's basically, and that's what that place was.
Wow.
It was an old place. It had a little office and a little porter cabin outside, load of cars on the front, a load of broken cars with the bonnets up, and it just looked like something out of Lightning McQueen. It was it just wasn't very pleasant. So I had no ambition to kind of continue with that site, but I just acquired it just to secure the position, and I just ran the lease down. And when the landlord turned around and said, "Oh, do you want to renew? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that?" I just said, "No, we'd like to exit." So we stripped the site, took all the good bits, took some cars, took all the good stuff, and we just let it close. So let it close organically, and we sucked it all into this place.
That's really amazing. I mean, it's not because I've seen it many times, but if you think about it, I mean, in most cases, when they're doing it right, when a franchisor comes into the space, what they're actually doing is taking an industry where it is less professional, where it is less systemized, where it is less impressive, and actually, so you would think the pilot site would have been like levels above the the usual site, because that's how you distinguish yourself as a brand, as a franchise, to say, hey, it's in the US, you had Midas Mufflers and Meineke and these, some of these, and their whole thing was, hey, we have these sort of really clean, efficient, sites, you know what you're getting, you come in here, it's not, so you would think as a franchisor, that's what they would do. But clearly they weren't a good franchisor in many ways, including not having their pilot site be something that you can be proud of or want to emulate.
Exactly that. And I think it's because the other factor is, getting back to the question of what I want to do moving forward.
Yes.
The franchise, because I've got such a bad experience from that. And to be honest, I worked with the other franchisees trying to help them. So the one chap who's still in business today and he's doing really well, like hats off to him, he's done really well off his own back. But the other guys who basically just gave up, I did try and help. I did try and coach them, like, this is how I'm continuing. Like, you need to do this, you need to do that. But they were so, like, in a negative spiral, and their mindset was in such a bad place that they were just so upset about the whole situation. Because I was upset, I walked into this. Of course. I felt a bit stupid. I felt a bit like used. I felt like I trusted the wrong people. So I felt like, this isn't a good situation. But you've got to take what you can from the situation. And the benefits I took was I've got into a new market, which I didn't know a lot about. Now I do know quite a bit about it. Yep. And I've seen behind the scenes. I know how it operates. So now I can make a go of this myself. And let's put all that in under the rug, basically. Let's deal with that later, all the losses and all the costs that it's incurred. I'm free. I've got no franchisor. I've got no one telling me what to do. So I'm back to how I was before. But now I've got a big fat garage with a lot of potential output, because sitting in my one little office in Birmingham and now sitting in this place, we're talking about revenue figures. We used to do two to £300,000 in the office, and here we're doing 700,000 a month. So it's a lot bigger scale, so it's helped me rock it to that level. And now I'm looking at other sites. I was talking to someone the other day, and it was, if I open 10 of these, this could be £100 million business.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of that, how much are we going to sell that for? It's
yeah. So I want to go there, and this has been such a rich conversation, and we don't have a huge amount of time. But I want to before we go there, it's really interesting because I want to point out to our listeners and viewers. I talk about this a lot, and this is a real great illustration of when I talk about the mindset of an entrepreneur and the mindset of a deal maker, right?
Yeah.
It's just understanding skills or structures or whatever, but there's a mindset, right? So, and what I love about what Cam was talking about is that, he had some other folks that were relatively similarly situated, meaning that they were they were franchisees of this bad franchisor. And look at what happened, right? You got one other guy, right? Obviously has that right mindset of an entrepreneur, and has been successful as well. But then you have, I think you said they were about 15, right? So you've got 13 others who didn't make it and who were let the negative experience sort of bring them down, and they didn't step up. They didn't react as a true entrepreneur does, in my mind. What we do is we figure it out, right? No matter what, and not that we don't get depressed for a while, we're not upset, whatever, but then we usually relatively quickly get into solution mode. Like, okay, now what am I going to do about it? Which is clear what you did. And then also on top of that, you have not only an entrepreneurial mindset, but a deal maker's mindset, because not only did you negotiate a deal to get out of your franchise agreement, but you actually bought the pilot site, right? So you understood the value of that, even though it wasn't up to the standards you wanted. You understood that the customer flow maybe was a key part of getting that deal done, but you were also willing to, again, put aside. You actually did a deal to buy a pilot site from a franchisor who was running a horrible pilot site and who you didn't like and whatever. And I'm sure a lot of the other folks couldn't even get past like doing, the idea of doing a deal with somebody that they were upset with, but you saw that deal opportunity.
Yeah, because personally, from a personal perspective, sitting around the table with these guys after the conversations we've had saying that we want to exit, he was looking at me with daggers, and you could feel, because, emotionally for him, because they didn't set out to be bad franchisors, it's just the way it worked out. And for me to, I was seen as the person who destroyed it. I was the person that pulled the trigger. So
right.
We're sitting around the table with them at their site, signing over all their assets. It was awkward as hell.
Right.
I was looking at the table. They were looking at the table, just signing. And it's just, thank you very much. Shook their hands. Off they went. And here I am with another site. And this is a site that I attended a year before to see their demonstration, to see all their presentation. And at that point, we didn't know enough about the garage, the business, the service business, to realize actually this place is a dump.
Right.
It's not good for them. I wouldn't bring my Porsche here. I wouldn't bring my Mercedes here. I wouldn't bring, I'll bring a little Ford Fiesta maybe, but it wasn't the right place. So when I got behind the scenes, I was like, yeah, this place is no good. So, but that, like my father was dead against it because he was very, you're wasting money. You should just do your own thing. But that, to be honest, it was the fear factor of these guys are going to go back. They're going to regroup. They're going to get their business in order. I might have a legal claim coming at me in 3 years' time. So if I take out their source of income, if I take them out of the business, they won't be able to do it. So because it cost me a good £40,000 in acquisition costs. And then I think I lost another 100,000 in the bad trade and the closure, moving everything. So it was a big, and we were quite early in our business as well. So I had to borrow that.
It was meaningful money.
It was, and it was for me to kind of smooth over the cracks and to kind of create a smooth launchpad for what we were trying to do.
Yeah, but again, you had the vision. You were able to see the future, the opportunity of the deal, the opportunity of the business. It's one of the things I talk about all the time in my negotiating trainings, and I talk about in my Authentic Negotiating book. Is if you can, people who are super successful negotiators have clarity, right? They create a clear vision. They know exactly what they want, where they're going. They're able to stay detached to the outcome. And I'm not saying that you didn't get triggered at times or whatever, but ultimately you were able to step back and not have your emotions, rule you. You not have, you were able to see the picture, you were able to stay detached, make logical decisions. And then the equilibrium part, this is my CDE framework, clarity, detachment, equilibrium. The equilibrium part is you could sit in a room with these guys, right, who you didn't like or whatever, and not have it, you were able to keep your state, keep calm, do what you needed to do, get the deal done, shake their hands afterwards, and, and move on, and not everybody can do that. That's, for me, that I always talk about the internal body of work, that it takes. And as entrepreneurs and deal makers, we often focus on the external. But that ability to see clearly and stay calm and make logical and rational decisions, not let your emotions take you over, made the difference between you and the other 13 people who just took a loss on it.
Yeah, that's it. And it is keeping those emotions in check. Yeah, I've been taught before as well by my advisors that it's a sport, business is a sport, and you've got to play the game. And if you get too, you see a lot of businesses, you see a lot of entrepreneurs, when they're going through their downward spiral and when they're going through their, failure, a lot of it's down to their emotional state, and they let themselves get sucked into that state and they can't see a way out. But quite often it's taking that step back, reevaluating things, looking at it from a different angle, taking advice from people around you, saying, look, I'm having a bit of trouble here. What am I doing wrong? And sometimes they can put you straight. They can put you straight on the path, and you'll be like, I didn't even think of it like that, or I never thought that would be a possibility. And it's just, you got to take. I always say to my guys, what cards do we have on the table right now, right in front of us that we can play? Yeah. Let's not worry about the cards that are on the floor or they're over there or in someone's pocket. What we got. So, and if all we can do is play those cards, if we don't play those cards, we got nothing.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so super quickly, because we're tight on time, I want to get to my last two questions, but I don't want to leave our listeners hanging. Let's talk real quickly about these future expansion plans. You said still figuring it out. So what are your thoughts? I mean, listen, you could have company-owned stores, you can bring in business partners, you could become a franchisor, right? Have you, what have you been considering? And you don't have to give away any trade secrets, but like, what's been going through your mind in terms of this?
To be honest, it's all business talk, really. So I've been looking at all the conventional models, really. Franchisors, being a franchisor and having franchisees, I don't think I could do it because it's the man management and it's the, I don't profess to know all the answers myself, and I wouldn't want to be in a position where, a lot of people are reliant on me with their own money in the business. So just because of the bad experience that I've had previously, and with this business, it's so geographically dependent. Like, it won't work across the UK because we are in the premium sector.
Yes.
So you have to pick and choose your territories quite well. And the model that I've built internally now, like with all the KPIs, with all the processes and all the systems, I actually believe that I can manage this quite well organically. And I could have various sites and they could all be plugging the information to me. Because even though I say this all the time, but I work in the business, like in the physical business premises, but I know how many cars we're getting in, I know how much output we're doing, but I don't know what's in tomorrow in terms of what kind of jobs. I know how many we've got and what our projected turnover is for tomorrow and what our margins are, but I don't know what types of cars, what types of jobs we've got in. That's the service manager's job, the sales manager's job, he knows the pipeline. So I've detached myself to that extent, but I want to grow this organically. So I want to purchase more sites and I want to replicate what we've done, use the successes we've done to do it a lot faster. And because obviously I dithered here, I messed around with the franchise, I did this and did that. So my growth here has been quite good, but it could have been a lot faster if I hadn't had all that stuff to worry about and wheel spinning in the mud, so to speak. So really organically, I'd like to open up more sites and copy and paste exactly what we've done here and see where we go.
Love it. And then listen, you said a key thing, obviously, as you grow in any industry, when you've been able to model that you can do it in one location, not only it raises the value of your business, not only does obviously you're going to be more valuable because you have more revenue and profit, but also multiples go up as companies get bigger, whether it's an EBITDA multiple, EBIT multiple, whatever the valuation methodology is. Bigger companies get higher multiples. That's you mentioned before, building towards a bigger exit. Clearly that's the ability to do that. And listen, if you've been able to do it, has it only been? I know you mentioned debt finance. Has it only been debt financing so far? And so no other equity.
No, just debt financing. I say no other like family. Soft equity has been injected here and there, but it's been it's all been organic and it's all been debt funding from the start, really. So right now, I know you mentioned partnerships, JVs. bringing other directors on. I'd bring on a board. If it grew bigger, I'd bring on people because as I said, I don't profess to know everything. I take advice on finance. I take professional advice on marketing. I enjoy marketing. I enjoy sales, but I still take professional advice on it all. But I'd like to build a board, and I'd like to have all the expertise in the house. But I'd like to build it organically, just to retain that control and to retain the vision. Because again, I've seen a lot of big companies that have been growing, and they start losing the vision. They start losing the message over time, and I think it's because they start bringing in. If you go public, if you start getting investors funds in, you can start to, because if I haven't got the fear, or if I haven't got the drive that everything's on the line, I don't think it will grow that fast, because I think you kind of sit back down. If you become a fat cat and you're on the board and you're getting a big salary, and it doesn't really matter what happens with the business. I think
you want to stay hungry.
Yeah, that's it. It needs to stay on the edge.
Yeah, it's interesting, folks. Like what I love about many things I love about this interview, but it's so one of the things that you can see here is that even though Cam's main growth strategy is organic, including getting other locations, right? Because he could acquire other locations, he could have business partners, he could franchise. He's going to do none of that. There's still so many deals involved in that, right? There's the bank lending, the financing deals that he did early, and the refinancing. There's the franchise in and franchise out. There's the buying out the pilot site, and then obviously building to that ultimate deal, which is his exit deal. That once he gets to the scale and size he wants, and it's appropriate time, to be able to set for that exit. So. My assertion on this podcast has been that every company can and should do some sort of deal, or prepare to be, doing at least that ultimate deal on exit, and you can do that, in various ways. Cam, listen, if I am when I get to the UK, I'd love to come by, because I am thrilled at seeing the businesses, in various industries that especially the ones that are doing it differently and have taken an industry where there is not a certain level of professionalism and the level of quality of service and innovative business approaches, and and it sounds like you've done a lot of that. So congratulations on your success.
No, thank you very much, and it'd be great to have you. So do let us know when you're in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, last two questions. One, if people want to find out more about you and your business, what's the best place for them to go?
I'm on all social media platforms, so you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, everywhere basically, either through Motorserve or you've got my name on the bottom, I believe, so you can look me up. I've got quite a unique name, so hopefully you'll be able to find me.
And for those of you who are just listening on audio, it's all going to be in the show notes, all the contact information, but it's Kamran, Kamran, and the last name is Saleem, Saleem. So check him out. So, Cam, my final question on the podcast is always around my highest value in life, which is freedom. And for me, that means everything from freedom from all people, from oppression to the reason I'm an entrepreneur. I haven't had a boss in over 30 years, because I want to be able to create what I want to create and do what I want to do. What does freedom mean to you, and how does it impact your business and life?
That's a good question. It's because I'm my own boss. And I always, have been from a very young age, and to work, I love that. I love what you just said, exactly the same. I like to do what I want to do, where I want to, how fast I want to grow it, how much work I want to put in. But it's a freedom to work, because even though I don't need to, I work 70 hours a week right now, and I have done my whole life. And my wife thinks that when I hit a certain point, I'm going to turn into 9 to 5, and I'm going to turn into this. I was just like, no, do you know what? I'll find something else.
Right.
There's always something else. There's always going to be something else. I'm going to grow the car sales side of the business. I'm going to be growing, the property business. I'm going to be growing this, going to be growing that. So it's really, I love it. I love the freedom to, transact, to do business, to do commerce. And I feel that you see people in Middle Eastern countries, you see people that are new immigrants into countries, and they're restricted in what they can do. That is like torture. When I see people in those situations where they can't transact, when they can't get government licensing, I just feel that in the Western world, we're so lucky to have this freedom that we can, we make this decision to go into business, and that, for a lot of the world, they can't. So it's that's the ultimate for me.
Love it, love it, love it. And I realize, you have this property investment business as well. We didn't even talk about that. I'm sure there's deals on that side, whatever. So maybe at some point down the line, we'll have you back on. But Cam, I really appreciate you being a phenomenal guest on the Deal Quest podcast.
No, thank you very much, Corey. It's great to be on.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Deal Quest, where we help you understand how deal-driven growth can be your ticket to freedom. I want to invite you to a unique way to tap into the wisdom and experience of the Deal Quest community. Join the Deal Quest Deal Den Zoom calls, a free monthly 90-minute mastermind. In the mastermind, we address all the challenges you may be facing and help support you with the opportunities that may arise in terms of deal-driven growth. You will get input not only from me, but all the members on the call will collaborate and serve each other in a mastermind format. To sign up for the free mastermind, go to www.coreykupfer.com/dealden. That's coreykupfer.com/dealden. I'll see you there. I'm Corey Kupfer. Until next week, wishing you the freedom and financial prosperity that I know your Deal Quest will bring.